Your baby hasn't said a single word yet. But they already have a favorite. Not a favorite toy. Not a favorite sound. A favorite person. And here's what makes this so quietly profound. They've been communicating that preference to you for weeks, possibly months, through gestures so small, so ordinary, so easy to brush past in the chaos of a regular Tuesday morning, that most parents never once register them as meaningful. Most people assume parent preference is obvious. They picture a baby reaching dramatically for one parent and crying when the other picks them up. A clear, unmistakable signal. But developmental psychologists have found that the real signs, the ones that actually reveal your baby's deepest attachment patterns, don't look like that at all. They look like a half-second glance across a room. A particular stillness when one voice speaks. A breath that softens just slightly when one pair of arms wraps around them. These are not accidents. These are not random. Researchers who study early infant attachment describe these micro-behaviors as some of the most sophisticated social communication a human being ever produces. And they happen before your baby can hold their own head up. So if you've ever wondered why your baby seems calmer with one of you, or turns their head a certain way when a specific person walks in, or reaches out in one direction more than the other, this video is going to show you exactly what that means. 5 signs. Hidden in plain sight. And every single one of them is telling you something important. Here's the belief most parents carry into those early months without even realizing it. That attachment is something that develops slowly, evenly, almost democratically, that a newborn is too young to distinguish between the people around them in any meaningful way, and that preference, if it shows up at all, is just a phase. Something hormonal. Something that will balance itself out over time. Developmental psychologists have found that this belief, however comforting, is not quite accurate. Infants begin forming attachment hierarchies, an internal ranking of caregivers based on safety, responsiveness, and emotional familiarity, as early as 6 to 8 weeks of life. Not months. Weeks. Long before the first smile is reliably social. Long before anyone in the house has slept more than 4 consecutive hours. Your baby is already quietly taking notes. And here is where the gap between what parents believe and what the research actually shows becomes deeply personal. Most parents, when they notice their baby seeming more settled with one person, do one of 2 things. They either dismiss it entirely. She's just tired, he's been fussy all day. Or they feel it as something uncomfortable. A quiet sting. A question they don't quite want to ask out loud. What they almost never do is read it correctly. Because what your baby is expressing in those moments is not rejection. It is not a verdict on your worth as a parent. Researchers describe early parent preference as a sign of healthy neurological development, evidence that your baby's brain is doing exactly what it is supposed to do, which is identify a primary safe base and orient toward it under stress. The problem is not the preference itself. The problem is that the signals your baby uses to communicate it are so subtle, so woven into the texture of an ordinary day, that most parents spend months missing them entirely. And when you miss the signal, you miss the conversation your baby is trying to have with you. That conversation is worth having. So what does that conversation actually look like? Here are the 5 signs your baby is quietly communicating a parent preference, and what each one is really trying to tell you. Sign 1: the rooms can return. When your baby is placed in a new environment, or when something startles them, watch where their eyes go first. Not second. First. Researchers studying infant gaze behavior have found that babies as young as 8 weeks will visually locate their preferred attachment figure within seconds of experiencing mild stress. Not to be picked up, not to make a sound, just to confirm that person is there. It is the visual equivalent of reaching for a hand in the dark. If you notice your baby's eyes consistently landing on one specific person before settling, that is not coincidence. That is attachment architecture at work. Sign 2: the voice stillness. Most babies respond to voices, that is well documented. But developmental psychologists have found a distinct difference in how infants respond to a preferred caregiver's voice versus other familiar voices. When the preferred parent speaks, babies don't just turn toward the sound. They go still first. A brief, unmistakable pause in whatever they were doing, a kind of internal tuning in, before the response comes. It lasts maybe 2 or 3 seconds. It is extraordinarily easy to miss. But once you know to look for it, you will not be able to unsee it. Sign 3, the pre-sleep reach. The moments just before sleep are when your baby's nervous system is at its most honest. The defenses, such as they are in an infant, come down. Researchers who study infant sleep behavior have noted that babies will often orient their bodies, turning their head, extending an arm, angling their torso, toward the preferred caregiver in the final minutes before sleep, even when that person is not the one actively settling them. It is an involuntary gravitational pull. The body moving toward its safe place without being asked. Stop here for a moment. Think about how many times you may have been in that room, standing just to the side, and watched your baby turn slightly in a direction you didn't fully register. Not toward a sound. Not toward a light. Toward you? Or toward someone else. And the fact that you are watching this video right now means some part of you already sensed that something was being communicated in those moments, even if you couldn't name it yet. That instinct was right. Sign 4, the emotional reset seek. When your baby is distressed, genuinely distressed, not mildly fussy, watch who they are brought to, and then watch what happens to their body within the first 30 seconds. Researchers describe a phenomenon called co-regulation, the process by which a baby's dysregulated nervous system borrows calm from a caregiver's regulated one. What they have found is that this process happens measurably faster with a preferred attachment figure. The breath slows sooner. The cry loses its edge sooner. The body uncurls sooner. The speed of that reset is one of the most reliable biological indicators of primary attachment preference that exists. Sign 5, the departure monitor. Your baby cannot understand object permanence fully yet, the concept that people continue to exist when they leave the room. But attachment researchers have documented that even very young infants display heightened alertness, subtle postural changes, and shifts in vocalization when a preferred caregiver moves out of their sideline. Not panic. Not always crying. Just a quiet, persistent orientation toward the space where that person was. Awaiting. A knowing that something important has temporarily left the picture. Now step back from the science for a moment. Because there is something underneath all of this research that is worth sitting with. Your baby has never read a book. They have never been told who is safe and who is not, who to trust and who to hold back from. They came into this world with no language, no framework, no map. And yet, within weeks, they began building one. Quietly. Carefully. Using nothing but the raw data of daily experience. The speed of a response, the warmth of a hold, the particular rhythm of a heartbeat they have come to know. And what the research is really telling you, beneath all the terminology about attachment hierarchies and co-regulation and gaze behavior, is this. Your baby's preference is not arbitrary. It is earned. Not in a transactional way, not in a keeping score way, but in the deepest biological sense, earned through presence, through repetition, through the accumulated weight of 1,000 small moments where someone showed up. Developmental psychologists have found that the parent a baby prefers in early infancy is almost always the parent whose nervous system they have had the most access to. Not the most perfect parent. Not the parent who never got the latch wrong or raised their voice or handed the baby off because they needed 5 minutes alone in the bathroom. The most present one. The one whose breath they have learned to read. So if you are the preferred parent right now, understand the quiet responsibility in that. Your baby is not clinging to you because you are performing parenthood correctly. They are orienting toward you because you have become their definition of safe. That is not a small thing. And if you are not the preferred parent right now, if you are the one who reaches out and feels the slight turn away, the small resistance, the almost imperceptible lean in another direction, hear this clearly. Preference in infancy is not permanence. It is not a judgment. It is a snapshot of a nervous system still forming, still mapping its world, still deciding where the edges of safety lie. And those edges expand. Every single day, they expand. You are still being watched. You are still being learned. Your baby is still taking notes. Here is the one thing you can do today. Not a routine to overhaul, not a parenting philosophy to research. Just this. The next time you are in the room with your baby, before you pick them up, before you speak, before you do anything, pause for 10 seconds and simply watch. Watch where their eyes go. Watch what their body does. Watch for the stillness, the lean, the quiet gravitational pull that was always there but never had a name. You have just been given the language to read it. Use it. Because the more fluent you become in your baby's unspoken communication, the more connected you both become. And that connection, built in ordinary moments, in 10-second pauses, in the space between a cry and a response, is the foundation everything else gets built on. If this video gave you something useful, something that made you see your baby even slightly differently than you did 20 minutes ago, subscribe. There is an entire channel here built around exactly this kind of knowledge, the quiet science of who your baby already is, and who they are becoming. They are telling you so much. Let's make sure you catch all of it.